So over the weekend, Drew Afualo and others were going viral over on my side of TikTok, and it overlaps with the conversation we've been having for weeks about straight women dating bi men and lesbian for lesbian and trans women and all the gay leftist shit we've been talking about. It just blew over this weekend in a way that like we need to talk, okay? Like we need to talk as queer people, as leftists, as anti-capitalists, whatever you're about. If you are aiming to dismantle white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism, so you're not a liberal Democrat who's pro-capitalism and wants to reform the system, you understand the system is fundamentally broken and we need to dismantle it. This plays into the social dynamics of what's been happening on TikTok. So I'm going to run you through the story in case you're totally in the dark. Check out this initial TikTok from Drew, and I'll show you how things kind of happened a little bit. Okay, so here's Drew.
Awful and terrible I have to deal with today. So I'm going to make this one video for all of the Terfs that are just now finding me. I'm in a very bad mood right now, so forgive me if it's crass. Video that you guys are getting fake outraged with my friend ER Fight Master is over a year old. The fact that you're pretending to give a fuck now means that you guys saw one alt-right, MAGA-loving creator make a video espousing TERF rhetoric, and now you want to get clicks and likes too. Which means you didn't go and watch the episode, you didn't do any of your own research, and that's embarrassing. So I'll go ahead and catch you up. The conversation being had is about how trans women, most oftentimes, identify with femininity and womanhood, sometimes even better than cis women do. There's an entire discussion to it. Maybe you should go watch it before you pretend to get mad. Either way, saying it's misogynistic to agree with a trans woman on what it means to be a woman, and then in your defense of that talking point, saying things like they don't know what periods feel like or they don't know what childbirth feels like, is really fucking stupid and embarrassing for multiple reasons. Overarching though, it's bigoted and transphobic. Ironically though, it's also misogynistic. Reducing womanhood down to your uterus and what it does is quite literally a pillar in misogyny. That is quite literally a tenet of patriarchy. Reducing women down to being able to have periods and create babies is a huge misogynistic talking point. Weaponizing it to discredit and invalidate trans women also makes you a transphobe. Believing in feminism unless trans women are included makes you a TERF. TERF stands for Trans Exclusive Radical Feminist. J.K. Rowling, ever heard of her? That's what she is, and that's what you sound like when you say shit like that. All of that to say, what's even funnier about these ridiculous videos being made mad at me is that ER is not a man. ER was assigned female at birth. ER is a non-binary lesbian. ER knows all about periods because ER has had them before. You guys really need to work on taking 15 seconds and trying to go viral off of it. It's fucking embarrassing and it's annoying. My stance on supporting trans people has been consistent through the fucking years. If you followed me for real, you should fucking know that. My feminism is intersectional, unlike a lot of women who claim to be feminists when they make videos like that. This entire conversation is stupid, bigoted, and transphobic. If you don't like that I support trans women with my whole fucking chest, unfollow me then, bitch. It's imperative cis women support trans women for fucking real, because I know I do. Thanks y'all, bye.
I agree with Drew. I think it was really funny that people were misgendering ER, which happens a lot. I actually feel like people ask me that question a lot to try to get me like, oh, are you trans? And I'm like, I think they're asking me if I was assigned male at birth, which is not exactly the same question as are you trans? Because if I said like, yes, I'm trans, and they're like, oh, so you're a man. Yes, but not in the way their bigoted brain thinks. And like, that's what's so interesting about language, which we'll talk about as well. So I see this video come up on my timeline and I'm like, what the hell is happening? What is going on? Like, what in the world could be going on? Well, okay, there are a lot of think pieces about this situation, but before we jump into it with their context, why don't we watch the full context ourselves? Because it's literally like 5 minutes long, and I think it's important. Now, this podcast was posted 2 weeks ago, but Drew says it's from a year ago, so I don't know if they were just like making content ahead of time and that's why they were doing it. Also, guys, I understand that it's a dog whistle for TERFs to misgender trans people as a way to invalidate them. So I'm going to try to be careful on that. I do tend to default to they, them, he, her, she, him a lot with people. I tend to switch around pronouns, not because I'm trying to be disrespectful, but more like I'm trying to say, I'm taking like a strong stance of like, I don't even, that's just how I talk. And it's kind of like, what does it even matter? But also it can matter. So we're going to do our best to make sure we're just like appropriately, specifically pronouncing the trans individuals in this, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm trying to mispronoun them. I did that with the Tyler Catastrophe video I made where I defaulted to my way of speaking, where I'd reference like him as a they, them, but not because he's a they, them, but because like, it's just like I just called Drew they, but Drew's not a they. But some people think they is gender neutral, like indifferent, and some people feel like they is a gender, and so there's like a confusion with how the language is being used. Okay, so for the sake of this conversation, Drew is she, her, and ER is a they, them, and they are actually. I read up on them this morning. One of the first actors to do a non-binary doctor in a TV show, apparently. So I don't really know who they are, but there you go. Okay, so let's listen to the section that made the internet absolutely lose their shit.
Exactly.
And what are you fighting for?
No, for real.
What are you
and
fighting
who are you
for?
So they're talking about Terfs right now. Okay, that's the context. Like, who are you fighting for?
fighting for? I've even told them before.
Oh, the volume is so low. Who is doing? Okay, whoever is doing Drew's audio, can you guys even hear it? It's so low.
Like, I've said this many times already, so having to say it again pisses me the fuck off because I don't explain myself to bigots. Like, I was like, the only like, you want me to validate you and your transphobia? I'm not going to. I hate TERFs. I hate transphobes. I've been that way forever. And I've, like, obviously, I have many, many followers who are trans, and so a lot of them were like, thank you for always defending us. And I was like, you guys stand behind me as long as you want, bitch. I don't give a fuck. Till you feel brave enough to come out, I don't care. Right? I was like, and also, I've told people before, it's imperative that cis women have this conversation with each other. It's imperative that cis women hold other cis women accountable for being transphobic. It's imperative because no one's free till we're all free.
Yes.
And also to think that transphobia will not affect cis women at all is insane. It's already affecting cis women.
I mean, especially,
currently.
we can obviously see it in the sports space.
Exactly. And women of color especially. And that's the part that I was like, you think I don't know? I experience it all the fucking time. Like, and it's because I don't fit into these Eurocentric beauty standards. But see, I've unpacked all of my internalized transphobia and biases, so it doesn't offend me when people try to call me a trans person or a man to insult me. That doesn't offend me. And also, I do have a huge dick.
I know
and you're
that.
gonna suck it from the back.
And I would.
And that's a fact, bitch.
Yeah, and I'm down with it, actually. I'm like stuttering. I'm like, wait, are we doing that now?
Getting nervous.
Yeah, no, like, okay. You know what? My truest thought on this is that I think that trans women have a more beautiful understanding what womanhood is.
I agree.
I think that, unfortunately, the programming for...
I'm just going to pause here. I know the volume difference is crazy because their audio person needs to be fired. Just kidding. Just get them, anyways, this is the section that made people upset. Okay. So I'm just gonna rewind it.
A more beautiful understanding what you know what my truest thought on this is that I think that trans women have a more beautiful understanding what womanhood is.
I agree.
I think that, unfortunately, the programming for cis women it's kind of sad sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
And
yeah.
I'm like, actually, no, your womanhood is not your role. Your womanhood is not your status in society, and your womanhood is not your ability to be sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
And this trans debate that's like centering all on, well, like, if a quote unquote man in a dress is in a bathroom, he will rape me. I'm like, okay, well, then it sounds like the problem that we have.
Oh, wait, Chesa, did they say beautiful or full? That's a great question. Hold on, let's go back.
Like, actually know what womanhood is. My truest thought on this is that I think that trans women have a more beautiful understanding what womanhood is.
Oh, a more beautiful understanding. Beautiful. The internet heard full.
Ability to be sexually assaulted. Quote unquote, man in a dress is in a bathroom. He will rape me. I'm like, okay, well, then it sounds like the problem that we have is that men are going to rape and women are fearing rape their whole lives.
Right.
And when you talk to trans women about their womanhood, they talk about it, like, almost gets me choked up. They talk about it in such this like beautiful, expansive way.
Yeah.
Of like, it's this feeling I always had.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, maybe the expansive threw people off as well, but I think they're making an interesting point.
It's this truth I've always known. It's the most beautiful parts of me. It's my softest self. And I don't feel that from cis women right now because I think the propaganda is so strong.
I agree. Yeah.
And I love women. Oh my God, I'm so obsessed with women. I'm obsessed with all women. I really am obsessed with all women.
Yeah.
And I want cis women to stop letting men be a barrier to their identity.
Yeah, absolutely. I've even told cis women when I defended Dylan. I've defended Dylan many times, but I defended her when she put out her song because TERFs, once again, were attacking her and saying that her song was like basically saying she's
This is Dylan Mulvaney. Remember, she made the song about being a woman or whatever. Never skip a Dylan TikTok. I do like her, but I will say also that I didn't love that song. But I do like Dylan.
It was
like derivative.
Yeah, it was a derivative.
Wait, is that her name? Dylan Mulvaney? No. Is that right? Is that her last name? Mulvaney? Or is that the comedian's name? Wait, Dylan, the Broadway star. Is that her last name? Why does that feel wrong?
with womanhood. I said, that's her experience with womanhood. Notice how she never said, this is the experience of all women. That's her experience as a woman. But even, let's just say that is what she was saying. She's talking about taking her meds, right? She's talking about both for her transition, but also for her mental health. She's talking about having a one-night stand, right? Are any of those things bad? And I told them, like, because when Sabrina Carpenter makes jokes about getting Eiffel Towered on her fucking tour, everyone's like, I love when women are sexual. And me too. I love it. But see, when trans women have the exact same conversation, all of a sudden you want to talk about, we're more than just a pair of tits. No shit, bitch. I know that. Dylan knows that. Sabrina Carpenter knows that. We all know that. It seems like you're the only person who doesn't know that.
Yeah.
And I was like, there is nothing wrong with any of those things. Just because women are engaging in them doesn't make them bad. But it speaks to what you said, which is like, it's almost like that's the most like convicted they feel in themselves is their woman, what their idea of femininity is, what their idea of womanhood is. And I was explaining to even me, I was like, I am a cis woman, right? I identify with the gender that was assigned to me. But I am not a thin white woman, right? So my experience with womanhood is going to be different from a cis thin white woman. We're going to have two different very experiences of womanhood. Is yours more valid than mine?
Right.
No, right? So it's really all the fucking same, isn't it? Also, whenever I say gender is a social construct and it's made up, their minds spray against the wall behind them. They immediately are like, what the fuck are you even talking about? And I'm like, see, you're not smart enough to have this conversation with me.
It's different. That is always the frustrating part is you're like, we are creating arguments to protect people.
Yeah.
And so we do our research.
Right, exactly.
And they are manufacturing our arguments to tear people down. And so they actually are just pulling shit out of their stinky little asses. You know what I mean? And so you're coming over here and being like, you know, Judith Butler would say, and they're like, but he sounds dumb.
Yeah, exactly. I used the term white feminism because I was saying Terfs perpetuate white supremacist ideology, which is white feminism, and white feminism is void of intersectionality. And if your activism isn't intersectional, it doesn't fight for everyone, right? And it's racist most times. And I said I said all of that to someone, and then she goes, "White feminist? This person is black." Then I'm like. And then I literally wrote back to her, Google the term white feminism, study up, and then come back to me. You're not smart enough to have this conversation with me. And I said, notice how when I made my original video, I didn't start with, this is why TERF rhetoric is harmful. I said your ass stinks. That's why I said it, because there's no point. I said that.
I already said the truth. Your ass stinks.
I was like, there's no point. I had no interest in having the conversation with you because you don't want to learn.
And you don't have to have literature on that, sweetie. You just have to have a nose.
Just a nose. And you know what's in there? I said, and your breath stinks too. It's probably from all your fucking gingivitis. I said all kinds of mean shit. And then this girl commented on my video and said, period to this video, but also just want to say one of my coworkers is a huge transphobe and he has the worst breath I've ever smelled in my life. And I said, and when I tell you I'm a scientist, believe me, or a witch, whichever one works for you.
No.
And I was like, it's a scientific fact. I told you, you all have poop in your butt. And you're just mad at me because I know. And I'm telling everyone.
This is the most powerful, like this is my mantra now.
And that's what
You've
makes me
got
laugh.
poop in your butt.
There's people saying, oh, she's such a fake feminist. And all I did was I told transphobes that they have poop in their butt. And somehow that makes me not a real feminist.
Bro, what makes you a realer feminist than knowing that transphobes have shit in their ass?
So I was like, I did the research.
That's actually empathetic. You can I'm empathizing with their existence. They've got shit in their ass.
Like I was telling my sister, I was getting annoyed because I don't.
Okay, literally the conversation just goes on for a few minutes and they're shooting the shit. And then Drew starts asking them questions about their life. That's it. Okay, it really is not more than that. It's the most shallow, fun, friendly conversation. Look, I don't really watch Drew's podcast. I don't like podcasts that are kind of like friends hanging out. That's like not interesting to me for this era of my life. It's a great concept, but it feels too much like friends hanging out. It is literally not a philosophical hit piece. This is not a political hit. Like, this is not a great statement of deep exploration. And the internet just went crazy about it. And they did that because there's something in the water. I'm telling you right now, they're trying to make the frogs turfy. Okay. I'm telling you right now, there's a new thing happening where this is why I call it the new meta. There's a new meta happening where rising to fame right now comes in the form of a cis woman being transphobic, biphobic. And it's working. They have some sort of rallying cries happening. It is working. And the progressives and very leftist queer people are being once again shoved down because it looked like we had a moment, but we were never having a moment. What we had was a liberal queer moment, but we've never really had a true radical queer moment because look at us, like look at political policy, look at who's running the government, right? In the United States of America. So I think what's happening right now is there are people who are like very much about being cis, but they don't want to be called cis. That's important. They'll say, don't call me cis, I'm just a woman. So some trans people are saying we should stop calling people trans and just start calling people their gender and don't preface it. Okay. Yes, Chet said it's like the brands removing the rainbows from their logos in June. I'm telling you, there's something going on where there is like almost like they thought we overcorrected and they're trying to get us back, but we didn't even overcorrect yet. We haven't even gone there yet. You know, okay, so here are some of the replies to this podcast clip. Oops, I lost
Trans
it.
women
Whoa, their audio is very good. Let me lower it down. I'm so sorry, earphone users. Okay, here we go.
have a more beautiful understanding what womanhood is.
Why would you say such a thing in an already divided political climate? Are you just trying?
Because it was a superficial, casual conversation. Because you're watching Drew Afualo talk to her friends and thinking it's some great political commentary. Because you didn't read the social context. Never in my life would I have seen this podcast as anything more than something I watch while I'm taking a shit on the toilet, / cooking food, / taking a walk. Like this is, I never should have even talked about this podcast because it doesn't matter. It's a fun, chill podcast. It's supposed to be fun. You know what I'm saying? That's why they said it, because it doesn't matter.
To create fights? Like, I don't understand what your aim was with that. And now my next question is, define womanhood and tell me why cis women didn't make the cut. It's a concept that we're apparently not a part of because we don't understand it, guys. I'm sorry to tell you, but cis women don't understand womanhood, apparently. Because why do you have to put cis women down in order to uplift trans women? Can't we just all live in peace? You could have said we have different experiences of womanhood. Could have said something along those lines, but no. You went right for the jugular. It's people like you that have made it impossible for some trans women and cis women to get along. It's statements like that create a problem.
Well,
and I hope you know that.
Trans women have a more...
Damn, brother. People are taking this. This has 80,000 likes, bro. People are taking this so seriously. I mean, I'm glad Drew took it seriously because the transphobia is serious, but it's crazy that the transphobes took this line so seriously. Like, what was so weird about what they said? Okay, here's the second one.
So forgive me if it's crass. Video that you guys are getting fake outrage with my friend ER5 Master is over a year old. The fact that you're pretending to give a fuck now means that you guys saw one alt-right MAGA-loving creator make a video espousing TERF rhetoric, and now you want to get clicks and likes too. Which means you didn't go and watch the episode, you didn't do any of your own research, and that's embarrassing.
Ms. Drew, one, I'm tired of y'all using buzzwords in order to divert the conversation. I don't know what alt-right MAGA video she talking about, but I know that she's in my comment section. I know that she posted my video on her story to respond to. I know she's in my comments talking about TERF rhetoric. Y'all will not continue to silence women, black women, women of color with these buzzwords. When we try to stick up for women, when we call out misogyny, that is also very rampant in LGBTQ community. I don't know if y'all scared to miss out on a check. Y'all scared they're gonna cancel you. But if you're gonna be a feminist, and I'm a womanist, by the way, but if you're gonna be a feminist, then you should be able to check anybody that sit across from you. And your friend ER has some very questionable takes, has some very questionable tweets out.
Oh, hello? Did I lose my internet? Wait, no, I'm still here, right? It's just TikTok lost its TikTok.
Takes, has some very questionable tweets out there.
No! My brother in Christ, what's happening? It's not me, right? I'm still here. I'm here. Okay, hold on. Let me refresh it. Maybe the TikTok's... Oh, is it... No, the TikTok's gone? No, it's here? Hold on.
Right now.
I preloaded these, so maybe... Let's try to...
ER has some very questionable takes. Has some very questionable tweets.
Okay. She's saying ER has some questionable takes.
Out there, and I bet you never came out here and checked that person. Have you? She goes on to say that we didn't watch the full video. We don't need to watch the full podcast to understand that ER says some bullshit. Why do we need to watch the full thing to know that? It's no issue if you want to say trans women have a womanhood, whatever. It's no issue when you speaking up for trans women. It's no issue when you advocating for trans women. I've advocated for trans women myself on my page. But what y'all will not do is invalidate women's experiences, especially me being a black woman. Absolutely not. Because the same things a lot of these other people going through, women of color and black women are going through as well. Y'all try to separate the issues that women experience, cisgendered women experience, because transgender women can't experience it. Let's be real. Y'all trying to snatch out all the things that women experience and say, well, that's not because of womanhood. It is. Women have fought, came together, advocated for themselves for many of these issues. That's a part of womanhood. Let's be clear. The problem is y'all think womanhood is only the way you present and how you perform femininity. That's not the only way. That's not the only thing that validates womanhood.
I'm sorry. I love when TikTokers film outside because I have this anxiety too. But imagine her neighbors listening to this. I'm sorry. I just noticed that. But like, that's how I feel when I try to record outside. I'm like, the whole world's going to hear me make this TikTok. But listen, I'll comment in a second. Hold on.
Womanhood is motherhood. Womanhood is dealing with periods too. Womanhood, and I know y'all like, why are you reducing it down to that? It's not reducing it down to that. It's just saying this is also a shared experience that cisgender women have. Therefore, it is.
Let me answer this really fast. Chet said, what's the difference from a womanist and a feminist? Womanism is specifically intersectional and brings in Black women's experience because white feminism was the primary dominant feminist framework that was utilized in politics. So womanism takes into consideration misogynoir and Black women's experiences. So if you don't identify with feminism, womanism is still really valid, but it is just like a more, I think, focused on the misogynoir, like the more inclusive way of thinking about it. It's not actually about the gender that I know of, at least. So like, I never thought of womanism as Terfs, but in the context of this conversation, it might sound like turfy. Womanism didn't, in my idea of it, in my understanding of it, didn't always think of it as turfy, but now it could definitely be more utilized that way if they're really focused on it being biological or something. So something to think about.
It's a part of womanhood. Me waking up as a woman in this society is a part of womanhood. Anything that I do and I experience is a part of womanhood. Black womanhood. Y'all on here scared to be canceled. You scared that check not gonna clear and I can't respect it. Every time somebody disagree with the LGBTQ community, y'all can't all of a sudden start calling them all type of phobics and everything to shut them up. That is so disingenuous. We can check each other or everybody can shut up.
Oh,
it's crazy to be like, it's so.
Okay, so first, I want to validate everyone's frustration because I think we're all frustrated. We're talking past each other. We're not hearing each other. We are getting activated. I just want to say that there are things that even I've struggled to communicate when I say like the femme experience or AFAB experience or a femic, like I'm trying to explain like people who fall into a category that have this particular experience, but not all people fall into a specific experience, right? I'm gonna sneeze. God bless me, God, gays bless me. Anyways, so I first want to validate everyone's frustration because I think it's really, really real. Okay. Two, I want to say I don't really understand what's happening exactly, but our inability to truly understand what deconstruction is amazing to me. Now, there's 3 variations of it, so I think that's playing a role. But the inability to say, for her to use the word buzzword is a talking point from the right. Like, she doesn't know that maybe, but when you use words like, oh, that's a buzzword, you have to be careful because it's kind of like conservatives say that, oh, like these leftists and their buzzwords, but they're not buzzwords. Patriarchy means something. They're not a buzzword. TERF means something. So I keep trying to use shorthand in my conversation as well, because I figure you guys know what that is. But when people hear it, they start to think like, oh, you're calling me a name versus I'm making an observation and putting you in a category. And that's different. Okay, look at this TikTok.
Just because you call people.
Oh, Drew put a comment, said, I think your femininity being threatened in any way by that conversation is a you problem, as in you have internalized transphobia that you haven't unpacked. Okay, let's see what this is.
Transphobes and you say that they have to unpack things doesn't mean you're right. Doing a podcast with a whole man and having him mansplain womanhood to you and you're just eating it right up because, oh, you can't get canceled. Because anyone with a fucking brain knows what kind of shit that you have to push on this platform to become as big as you. Nothing you say is actually of substance. I'm fully aware that you can come on here and LARP and say all the right things and your following's gonna grow and you're gonna get brand deals if you keep pushing yourself one way. These big brands love that woke shit. But to let a man tell you that trans women have known their whole lives about the feeling of being a woman more than actual women. I don't need to prove that I'm a woman to anyone. I don't need to wear makeup if I don't want to. I simply am a woman. Biologically, okay? When we all die and they find my bones, they are going to find out that I was a woman. Because even then, the biology is not going to change. When will y'all realize that these creators on these apps are just here to push an agenda on you and get paid? The shit that these big creators say on this app, they say it because they know they have to tiptoe this line where, hey, I want to get paid. But also, I can't say what I actually want to say because then I won't get paid. I've seen big creators come out and talk about Dr. Fauci Gucci, you know, that one girl that does makeup on here, Drew Afualo defending men, coming on here, creating a whole platform, talking about men, right? But you're never defending women when it comes to these topics because it's simply just for clicks. It's not actually about women. Y'all want to cancel me so bad. Y'all want to label me a fucking TERF, but because of the fact that I actually stand with women. Because standing for women, biological women, is controversial. Because in this day and age, at least right now, I don't know, I think in the future it's going to change, maybe in the next 6 months, you're not going to get the brand deals. You're not going to make the money if you push against these agendas. If your favorite creator is always saying all your favorite buzzwords and always standing up to all those causes that you care about, you should take a fucking step back and be like, hold on.
Buzzword.
They can't always agree on these things. Oh my God, wait a second. It's because they are here to make money off of you. We can say the left and the right are the same. It's two wings of the same bird, right? It's very, very fucking abundantly clear that the left is completely intertwined with media, intertwined with brands. You become a right-wing creator and you're in a part of fucking Home Depot. So when you look at the world and you're like, wow, everything really is about money, you should look at the creators that you follow in a very objective way. These people do not give a fuck about you. Drew is just getting a check. This is her business. She does not actually give a fuck about women. She was in a fucking bathroom, right? And a woman walked in there and she said, hey girlie, hey, let's be besties. And then a man walked in and then that girl said, I don't feel comfortable with that man in the bathroom. Who do you think Drew's gonna stand with? It's not gonna be for the consent of that woman. Oh, it's gonna be for the fucking man. Because to her, the cost of being canceled does not pay her bills. Cost of LARPing and standing up for all these issues and pretending like she gives a fuck is what pays her bills. You have to be delusional to not know this.
Okay, first and foremost, I don't know how much Drew is an anti-capitalist. She has done brand deals with people. I don't know. I know the shaving company she did a brand deal with. I don't know how much that plays into people doing brand deals with small companies. Drew Afualo is very successful. I've read her book. You know, she's very prominent on TikTok. I don't know how much of an anti-capitalist that Drew is. I don't know. Okay, given all her associates and friends with Brittany Broski and all that stuff, those people are pretty capitalistic to me. So she might be a capitalist. I don't know that she's truly anti-capitalism in like a really radical way. I mean, really, who is? Okay. Second to that, though, this person is transphobic, right? Because when they said, oh, a man entered the bathroom, they're not talking about a man. They're talking about a woman who they don't think is a woman. So yeah, Drew would stand against bigotry because that's what that would be. It's not about choosing the man in that situation. It's about standing up against bigotry. You can call that person a man, but that's not what's happening. That's not the social context of what's happening. Right? So, you know, and even to call ER a whole man when ER is assigned female at birth and identifies as they, them is another layer to this. And that's why ignorance and bigotry always makes you look stupid because you aren't educated enough to have this conversation because you don't even know what you're talking about, you know, because you don't even know who you're insulting or what you're throwing at, you know, and again, it's layered. And I think if we weren't so busy trying to win, we would be focused on actually just letting people be who they are. Let ER be whatever they are. Let Drew be who she is. Let all of us just be who we are. And what happens, happens, you know? And that's the queer philosophical perspective of deconstructing and getting away from these gender binaries, is to say that gender is a performance, but a performance is real, you know? Gender might not be biological, but everything we do is biological. And you have to hold these truth contradictions in the palm of your hand at the same time. Okay, we can't escape biology. Everything is biological. I believe this. And even if everything is biological, having an ability to think and introspect and having a deeper relationship with a biological experience is obviously also biological, which means if we can introspect our way out of bigotry, that's also biological. If you can introspect your way out of the gender binary, then it obviously looks like, okay, if you follow the logic to the end, that you could sort of, for some of us who are having that experience, can end up becoming pansexual or non-binary or other variations of who we are. Because that's what unpacking does. It allows you to take what you've learned and remove it that isn't good information and replace it with better information, right? And the better information being the one that's less bigoted, the better information being the one that's less hateful, because that's always our goal. So even the way Drew talks, look, it's not the way that I talk. I don't think Drew is trying to have great philosophical, deep conversations. I think Drew is fighting on a very like superficial mass scale against the very superficial mass public, because most people are superficial thinkers, and why wouldn't you be? It's not like anybody knows what anything is. We just learned this week that straight women don't know what heterosexual means. You know, so of course, you know, no one's smart enough to have these conversations. We don't even know the basics of heterosexual, bisexual. Plus, you start to take the deeper layer of, and ER makes a joke about Judith Butler. Judith Butler is a gender deconstructionist, as am I. Okay, that means gender is a performance, less more than a biological reality, a binary reality. But that's not to say that you can escape your biological experience. You cannot transcend nature. You are nature experiencing yourself. Right? So it feels like we're heading into this new era where there is going to be another deviation, but it's not that big of a surprise given that most of the world is bigoted, right? If most of the world is prejudiced, if most of the world is growing up in systems they haven't deconstructed, right? Twos, okay? There's variations of that two relationship, then it makes sense that a lot of people would just go back to what they knew, especially when they're stressed. This economy being as hard as it is not a joke. And I'm going to show you this with Jules and how it plays into our psychology. But girlies, you will become more bigoted the more you're stressed. The more you are not sleeping, the more you feel like you don't have money to spend, you will start to hate on everybody who looks like they're even more successful than you, slightly happier than you, or you feel like people are coming to fight for them and not you. You will become bitter. That's why I say you need to meditate out of your bitterness because it's not helping you or your community. Okay. But but something is wrong. That's why we unpack. That's why we deconstruct, because something is wrong. If you notice yourself getting more racist or more transphobic or more something, you should go, oh, why am I so angry? Why don't I have the patience to deal with people? Wait, what's happening? And then you'll start to realize like, oh, okay. Because no matter how deconstructed you are, how enlightened you are, like you're still just a person. Okay. You're still just a person. You have to combat it for the rest of your life. And that's why as people age, they get a little bit more conservative because it gets exhausting. But, you know, if it's in your heart of hearts to do the work, there will become a point where the exhaustion is still worth it. Okay, so here's another TikTok I'm going to show you.
And this is that I think that trans women have a more beautiful understanding what womanhood is. Unfortunately, the programming for cis women is it's kind of sad sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
And
yeah.
I'm like, actually, no, your womanhood is not your role.
Mm-hmm.
Your womanhood is not your status in society. And your womanhood is not your ability to be sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
I want everybody to take a moment with me and wake up, okay? Because we are sleeping, we are delusional in this society. Like, womanhood is about more than being cute, being the teest, being the best looking. Womanhood is real. It was just a black woman on here the other day crying because PCOS was controlling her life. She was running her life based on her PCOS. That's a part of womanhood.
Ooh, actually, it's not. Lots of people can get PCOS, not just women. That is a misconception. It's actually been renamed because people kept associating it with women only, but that's just bad science. That's bad research on the doctor's point. But you see how we have to update every information we have about the world because our science is there's holes in our science. And so that's why we have to deconstruct white supremacy from our science institutions, scientific institutions. But like PCOS used to be thought of as like a thing that, quote, women experience, but it's not, quote, what, like breast cancer. Like, you know, like cis men can get breast cancer. Heart attacks is not for men. Women get heart attacks. You know what I mean? So we really literally grow up thinking disease is gendered when it's not as gendered as you think it is. It's just, it's been conditioned in us to think that these things are gendered.
They don't know anything about women's bodies. Women out here suffering from fibroids and everything else. And they making men's Viagra every which way. They got pills, they got liquid form, they got all this stuff. And they still can't understand the woman's body and how to keep us healthy.
Chet's saying and endometriosis. See, there you go. Everyone get oh my God. You know what I'm trying to say.
We don't express it right. We are women. We don't have to nothing to express. It's nothing to express. And I think this is the issue that y'all have up here. Them women over there fighting for their life. Women's bodies being mutilated as little girls. Women who don't have a freedom of speech, can't buy property, they don't even own themselves. And y'all want to talk about women not giving you the right expression. Women are losing their reproductive rights. And y'all on here talking about what? I'm so sick of everybody playing fake woke. Like, I'm so sick of just agreeing for the sake of agreeing to not offend anybody. Women are losing their lives daily. We talk about everybody else. Black women are losing their lives daily. Black women are still 2 to 3 times more likely to die during childbirth. I rebuke. But these are the things that being a woman, this is what we have to deal with. Y'all trying to make it cute and pretty, but women don't really know about womanhood. Are y'all dumb? We're experiencing womanhood every single day. We're fighting for our rights every single day. And when y'all come on here and y'all invalidate that, y'all lose me every single time. It seems like the LGBTQ and everybody else, they fighting for themselves and themselves only. And women are still fighting for some of the basic human rights. She talking about the program and the cis women. It ain't nothing to program. This is the world that we live in that does not value women. It does not value women's bodies. And it seems like whether it's a man, whether it's the LGBTQ, whether whoever, everybody's trying to invalidate a woman's experience. You cannot erase women and call that progressive. Y'all go so far left, y'all end up right back on the right. And that's And that was the truest words I ever heard.
Truest thought on this is
Yeah, people think that. Like, I don't believe in horseshoe theory. Because I think it's bullshit. I don't think that's ever true. Because no matter how far left you go, at least in this context of this conversation, it does not come at the consequence or at the result of women losing their reproductive rights. Like, Drew Afualo is not suggesting that. You know what I mean? So, like, where's the context for that becoming true? And I think women feel threatened by people who are progressing past them because they're too busy still fighting men about their right to be seen as equal. Well, the rest of us are like, you know what? Men don't have to see us as equal. We just know we are. Like, I do think a lot of cis women are stuck still fighting patriarchy and a very like in the mud with the men. And I think the rest of us are trying to like not be in the mud with them while still fighting against them or against the system, obviously not the gender that is man, but the system in which men uphold patriarchy. So, you know, when we have these questions, right? Chet said, I'm confused about the PCOS. It's been renamed. They're renaming it. So it includes all people who get PCOS because we realize it doesn't require ovaries in the way that you think and or the way that the gender is assigned at birth and or the way that it's just like there's a new science. So that's why things have changed. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we can't all know everything. I don't know everything about it. But when I heard about it, I was like, okay, cool, updated, right? Like, we can't know everything about every bubble. And that's what I'm saying. Like, we're not all on the same educational page, but we say things with our full chest, right? Like, men can't get this, but you don't know that. Like, we think that, we thought that. Yeah, the new name is PMOS, polyndoc. I don't even know how to say this word. Metabolic ovarian syndrome. So is that the new one? So it still has ovarian. I don't know. That's not the point, though. The point is, I saw the thing. It's updated, right? It's there. Chat said, endocrine. I don't even know how to say it. Chat said you need ovaries to get it. Okay, but then what is this? That's what I'm saying. See how this conversation is fucking derailing because all of us think we're fucking scientists now, but we're not. We're fucking stupid. This is male equivalent polycystic ovarian syndrome, hormonal metabolic clinical aspects. Recent studies identified the presence of male polycystic ovarian syndrome, PCOS, which mainly affects men whose female relatives are afflicted with PCOS caused by genes responsible for susceptibility of this syndrome in women. Similar hormonal, metabolic, and clinical alterations occurring in PCOS women have been reported in their male relatives, suggesting an association between the male and female forms of the syndrome. Okay, so like, I don't know what that exactly means, but we're not all fucking scientists, okay? Don't derail the conversation, right? Just Google it. That's what I'm saying. Don't rely on a TikToker. Don't rely on Brittany Simon. Google it and start fucking reading because you don't know shit and neither do I. Okay, I'm just gonna post the link of what I was reading really fast. But that's how my brain went, oh, let me just Google that really fast. Okay, and then you can start reading. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Stop being confident in yourself, start Googling and make sure, because we all do this. And I'm saying I do this, you do this, we all do this. Okay? So just, okay, stay humble. Okay, next TikTok. The internet was a mistake. Okay, just FYI, guys, when you say things, the internet was a mistake, you might as well just say like people are a mistake. Because we are the problem. Right? Like, we are the problem.
Drew Afualo having to deal with Terfs, people thinking Patrick Clancy murdered his kids, people being mad at Jules LeBron over this dental thing, people being relentless in their bullying of Samira. The internet was a mistake. I don't know. I haven't been put in this bad of a mood because of this app in a long time. Like, I want everyone to go into timeout. Now I just need to get off my phone.
Bye. I get it, though. I need to get off my comment sections. Chet said, I think you're misunderstanding the research. It's saying there are similar metabolic disorders in men with PCOS. Guys, do not make me say it again. Okay? We know intersex people can get PCOS. We know you're assigned a gender at birth. It doesn't matter who has the ovaries. Ovaries do not make a woman. I'm saying I'm not a scientist. I don't know. Do the research or become a scientist. I'm saying scientists have come out and said men can get PCOS. I don't know what the fuck that means. I trust the science because that sounds like an updated way of including intersex people. Babies getting assigned something at birth doesn't mean anything, okay? So again, when we have these conversations, it's not me misunderstanding the research. I'm telling you right now, I'm not a scientist. I don't know the research. I am reading and understanding it. If babies who are intersex are assigned male at birth and they're considered men and they live in the world as men can get PCOS. Yeah? Then who fucking cares? You know what I mean? If you want to go into the detail of what needs ovaries or what, I don't know, because I can't tell you. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying is the problem. We're all acting like we're professionals. Like we're fucking, this is our life and we know what we're talking about. And I'm saying, I don't know what I'm talking about. Don't listen to me. Listen to me when it comes to philosophy. Don't listen to me when it comes to PCOS. Okay? I don't know. All I know is what I've read and I barely understand it. That's what I'm saying. Okay, now let's add in our second layer of this conversation, because I think it's important, about how Drew Afualo's situation is happening at the same time as Jules LeBron is being dragged on the internet. I want to talk about it because Jules is a trans woman who rose to fame, demure, cutesy demure, you know her, and she got famous, kind of like made it. But there's a double-edged sword to this, so let's talk about it. And then Chad says, I did study medicine. That's why I was trying to clarify. I appreciate that, but you have to understand from my perspective, I don't know you. And I think that's the problem we're having in these comment sections. You'll have someone say, well, actually, I'm a doctor and this is true. I don't know you. So we don't know who's saying this. How many conservatives have doctors come on their show and say, don't take vaccines? We cannot just trust people because they're doctors. We can't trust the science just because it exists. We can't trust people because they're in comment sections, and you can't trust TikTokers. You have to use data. And most of us do not have the actual ability to understand how to move through data. And I'm saying we all need to be humbled. Humility needs to be the number one part of this conversation. Okay, that's what I want this whole conversation theme to be. We all need to be humbled. Okay, because I don't know you, and I know you're in the chat, and I love that. But again, when we have these conversations, right? Okay, let's go. And Chad says, was anyone saying it? Was it just this paper? Am I being a bad communicator today? Is it me? Am I being the bad communicator? Okay. I just did a quick Google search, right? Because I had heard it before, and this is the first thing that came up. So I'm saying it's been out there, but I'm not, the stream was not supposed to be about this topic, but you see how we derailed into this topic? And I'm saying, I know it's out there, go get the information. I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but I'm getting a little bit like, but then maybe I should just ignore my chat, which is the whole point of like, are we actually, because it sounds like you're not Googling, and I just said Google. Because I can't be the source, right? You said, sorry, I was replying to someone else. Okay, well, make sure you guys at people, girls, because I can't tell. And then it confuses me about, are you talking to me or somebody else? You know what? I'll just ignore chat. Okay, here we go.
Afualo and Jules LeBron situation made me realize two things. Well, actually three things. The first thing I learned, y'all truly hate trans women, especially if they're a trans woman of color. Because the way y'all misconstrued my good sis Jules' words on purpose to fit y'all's narrative, my God. The second thing I learned,
I'm going to show you this TikTok first for a reason, so just lock in.
Is that the literacy crisis is actually real. It's so real because the way y'all purposely misconstrued Jules and Drew's words on purpose. Y'all heard what the fuck y'all wanted to hear instead of hearing what the fuck was actually stated. And I feel like if you can't read past the cat in the hat, you should not have this conversation.
I love how the cat in the hat is always the reference.
Last thing I learned is the fact that even though we're all victims of the patriarchy and capitalism, y'all was sure as fuck lick the taint of both systems in order to fit y'all narratives. Absolutely, you're for sure. You're right on, bitch. The way y'all was so quick to throw Jules underneath the bus and tell that bitch to get a job, as if that job was gonna help her fix her teeth. She still would have to sit in pain as her teeth fall out her fucking head while she wait for her insurance to clear. You think that's supposed to be a solution? And going into Drew's situation, y'all literally let a Terf come on this internet. I'm not calling Drew a Terf. I'm talking about the bitch that stitched Drew's video. Yeah, I'm talking about you, Musty. Y'all really let a Terf come on Beyonce's internet and Boo Ivy Soul Service to tell y'all exactly what was said in Drew's video. That's not what the fuck she said. Y'all are stupid. And I mean that in the most nicest way I can say it. Y'all really let propaganda slap y'all clean in the fucking face. And I find that so hilarious. Y'all are so susceptible to propaganda to the point that it should be studied scientifically, and I think it is currently. I'm laughing at this when this is not even funny.
Now, the frustrations are real, but it also is layered. Okay. So let me guide you through this process. So who's this person talking about? They're talking about Jules. And if you know Jules, you know Jules. And look, I love Jules. But let me show you the TikTok that rubbed people the wrong way. And then I'm going to explain why ultimately everyone is just in their feelings, and influencers, they are not as great at their job as we think they are just because they're famous, right? Like, I'm going to say things that are wrong. Look, I just got in it with my chat and my chat was talking to someone else and then we miscommunicated. Like, I don't want to yell at my chat that way, but sometimes it does. Like, it's like, I got to remember that the social situation of this job is just fucking weird. But on top of that, we're all being seen by people who don't even get us. So there's like another layer of it. So like, I don't want to yell at my chat. I'm sure the chat doesn't feel good for you guys. And at the same time, like, I don't know, just because you're a member doesn't mean you're not a troll who got a membership, right? So here's Jules rubbing the internet the wrong way, but then it all got fixed in the end. So it all kind of worked out. But here's the original TikTok, just to get an idea.
Falling out of my head and I need your help. Listen, my teeth are falling out of my head and I need your help. Listen, I'm very uncomfortable making this video because this is a video I thought I'd never have to make. About maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, I had a deal with a dentist and he was going to completely take out all my teeth and give me a brand new set of teeth because through addiction, my teeth are severely destroyed. And the deal ended up falling through. And for the past maybe 2 months, you guys know I've been on my own dental health journey. I've gotten, a few cavities filled. I had a root canal. And every time I go to the dentist, it's made clear to me, I'm fighting an uphill battle. Like, it's being made clear to me that no matter how much I do here, I'm going to eventually have to take out all my teeth. And I've already spent $6,000 on this. So I don't know what else to do. I don't want to ask my community for help, but I feel like I have no other choice at this point. I would love to go get a regular job. Girl, don't get me wrong, but even then, I don't think that that's going to help my situation. Not in a dismissive kind of way. Like, I'm streaming every day and it's becoming very successful. I've gained a good amount of followers over just a matter of weeks. But I know that it's gonna be a few months until that's stable. And I wanted to fix my teeth on my—
Okay, it's a long TikTok, but you get the point, right? Okay, so this rubbed people the super wrong way because people were like, don't you have like 2.5 million followers? Which she does. Weren't you just on the news? Aren't you kind of like famous, right? Like TMZ did this thing about her in March.
Did lead to some mega virality and a Charlie XCX sponsorship. Did lead to substance abuse, believe it or not.
Jules LeBron, who went viral for her
Very demure, very mindful
trend, opened up on TikTok and said that this overnight fame led to her life being fully derailed.
Hi, I'm Jules LeBron. I went viral for Very Demure, Very Mindful. And it was the highlight of my life. It also was the worst time of my life ever. I think a lot of people are like, oh, she fell off.
I was on drugs.
During her addiction, she said that she was buying so many things that her house became a mess and she was getting so overwhelmed by this.
One day, I was up at like 4 a.m. I decided to buy this. I bought this, and those, and that. My producer convinced me that I needed a supercomputer, so I bought like an $8,000 supercomputer. I actually don't ever talk about my old apartment because I went into psychosis.
She made a lot of money to help fund things like her transition, but she claims that once the money and fame came in, so did substance abuse.
I've gone through this many times in my life. It was the only time I went through it where I had like money and success.
Jules also said in a video that drinking became a gateway, and she revealed that she is getting sober for her kitties.
When I say like my—
Okay, so there's layers to this conversation as well. Look, that's why I say there's a difference between a career and someone who accidentally goes viral. Like, this is my job, this is my career, so everything is financed. There is no chance, probably, of me going viral, famous, and getting a bunch of money and spending it on stuff. To be fair, I don't have an addiction and Jules is suffering from it, so we're deeply empathetic. And also, the second layer to this is my parents raised me with an attitude of like, if you ever become rich, don't tell us. Because money makes people fucking evil. And it exposes their evil, I should say, because it doesn't make them evil. It exposes their selfish fucking evilness. And the fact that Jules says she spent a lot of money helping her family and paying their bills makes me wonder, like, did you guys literally watch your sister, daughter, cousin spiral while you benefited from her money? I don't know, right? Because like, what are we doing here? Also, there's a third part of this that I think is pretty heavy, which is most influencers aren't actually thinking they're going to go viral. So they're not treating it like a business. So they don't understand you don't need an $8,000 supercomputer. You needed an iPhone. You didn't need a supercomputer. You needed a $3,000 computer max. Like, you didn't need an $8,000 computer. And the fact is like, if you have the wrong crew around you, you will get fucked. And that's, you know, that's really I always call it the Britney Spears Beyonce situation, where when Britney was going through it the hardest, Beyonce was asked about her in an interview, and B said it's all about who you have around you. And I think that's so true. Not that Beyonce maybe wasn't taken advantage of by Jay-Z all those years ago, but anyways, I think that's the dilemma with not having the right people around you, is anytime you go viral or you have those opportunities, there's a lot of mental health struggle that comes with it, 100%. Okay, so I have a great empathy for Jules. I think what rubbed people the wrong way was this idea of going and doing all these interviews, talking about how she made it. And when people think you've made it, the last thing they want to hear is you asking for money. Okay, that's like the last thing they want to hear about when they can't even pay for anything. Okay. Not to mention, like, you could just go into debt like everybody else. That's what everyone does, Jules. We go into debt, you know? And so then it feels crazy when other people are just going into debt. Like, I would just go into debt. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I have asked the internet for money many, many years ago. The only time I would ever think to do it again is if, like, it's an absolute emergency. Otherwise, like, I'll just go into debt. Like, you guys don't need to, you know what I'm saying? Like, even when you guys found out Indiana was dying, right away, you guys were like, oh my God, like, should we have a GoFundMe? That's so sweet of you guys. But, like, she's dying. So I don't know what you're going to raise money for. You know what I mean? Like, we can pay her hospital bills. You know what I mean? We can afford it. Like, you know, we are just on a strict budget. Like I said, like, we live on $20 of spending a week. Like, Jules is not a bad person, but she's exactly the warning I want to send to all of you. Be happy being middle class. I'm a very successful content creator, but I live middle class because I make middle class money. So we have $20 of fun spending money a week, $20. On that budget, Jules couldn't have spent money on those things. But the problem is, if she's an active addiction, she might not have the ability to say no to herself. So there's layers to this, absolutely. But Jules isn't the only one. A lot of creators, they don't have a budget ahead of getting popular. And even regular people who aren't, quote, creators, they have the same thing when they get a raise at work. If someone's getting a $50,000 raise, which is a thing people experience, okay? Especially if you're a college grad and a higher earning income, they don't realize what to do with it. If you watch any of the finance shows I watch, people are shocked at how much the money they make a year because they don't even pay attention. Okay, so again, when we have these conversations, there's an intersection at play here. I'm deeply empathetic to the situation, and I understand why people are annoyed. Now, the end to this story is good, but until we get there, Jules did go live, and some people were clipping some of the sections.
And unfortunately, Samira's right. A lot of you guys are just utilizing the situation to be hateful. I didn't do anything to you. I didn't hurt you. I didn't offend you. I didn't ask you for anything. You didn't donate. And the people that did got a refund. And I'm getting the surgery. Why are you mad? Why are you mad? Exactly. It's weird. And then flipping it on me like, are you okay right now? How would you feel? Thousands of people are purposefully misunderstanding you. You'd be frustrated, right? Yeah, so don't sit here and position it like I'm overreacting or I'm freaking out. You have thousands of people coming at you, and then you did the right thing. They were offended by something, you fixed it, and now you're getting your surgery, and I'm still public enemy number one. There's nothing I'm gonna say that's gonna make you feel better.
I do think people hate Jules just to hate, and I think people are transphobic and fatphobic and racist and all these other things 100%. I do think Jules mishandled that TikTok, and if I was Jules and I was like, okay, here's how I would ask for money, because what ended up happening was a bigger donor came through. So a bigger donor came through, which was always kind of the hope, I guess, allegedly. And then she refunded everybody on her GoFundMe who donated because she didn't need it anymore. But the thing is, and this is why I say you have to have a good team around you. What I would have said to Jules, if Jules said, okay, I need to get my teeth done ASAP. Like, they're a threat to my life, which is true. Bad dental can kill you. So, okay. 2, I have 2.5 million followers. And yes, one of the sponsorships fell through. Reach out to 10 other ones, 20 other ones. There is a dental company right now that will 100% do your teeth for free. 1000%. Like, I couldn't even imagine that not being the absolute option for Jules' status as a creator. And very confusing why that, I didn't hear that in the TikTok, but maybe I missed it. I understand the original one fell through. I hear that. And I think getting a regular 9 to 5 is out of the question. Okay. But this plays into how we're receiving one another. And this is why this conversation is so interesting to me, is the way that we're receiving each other. Okay. So when we hear people talk, when they have opinions, when ER just said that casual thing that trans women have a beautiful understanding of womanhood, where cis women are still trapped fighting, it blows up into this whole thing instead of us just being able to kind of like hear, understand, and see how it all plays a role. Now, again, from Jules's perspective, given the fact that people are talking about $20 burritos, like, you need to be very careful as anybody asking for money. I also transparently think it's always a red flag when I see people's Cash App or PayPal or something in their bio. I don't like e-begging feelings. Nobody does. Like, who wants to feel like your full job is e-begging? Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel good for anybody. It doesn't feel good for you. It doesn't feel good for your followers. It doesn't feel good for anybody. But there are people who do it, and it's a whole bubble. Guys, there's a whole bubble, if you don't know, of people who just have GoFundMes. And I'm not saying they're wrong for it. They could be right. They could be 100% ethically correct for doing it. But I'm not saying that the psychology of seeing it isn't annoying. I'm not saying that there aren't creators out there who see every opportunity as like, oh, I'll ask my fans. And Jules has asked her fans a lot. Like, this is very common. So when Jules says, I never thought I'd make this video, she's made it like 6 other times. Old Jules content is now coming up on my feed of young Jules, because TikTok is being messy like that. And they're like, oh, do you want to see this video? And I'm like, I guess I do. And like, this is old Jules coming up saying, I need money, I need help, I need this thing. And I'm saying, yeah, like that eventually will feel a way to people. But, it is a part of the stress we're all universally feeling. Like, look at this that came out. Everyone's so upset about it. $20 burrito.
Debate over the price of burritos.
We're going to bring you up to speed on the great debate.
Oh, hold on. Chad said, oh, so she's a beggar? No, she's a trans woman of color who's fat in America, whose family is in a bad financial position and they have nothing. She's a very marginalized person who genuinely had an amazing thing happen on the way to her 9 to 5, if you recall. Her demure and cutesy happened on the way to work at her 9 to 5. Okay? And the dilemma here is like, she's not just the person who feels entitled to your money. She's exactly the type of person who needs every resource because the system doesn't support her, right? Like, she was working a 9 to 5 when she got popular. The dilemma is like, just because you're famous or viral doesn't mean you know how to utilize it and turn it into money. Brittany Broski is an incredible exception to this rule. And keep in mind, she's still white and cis, okay? Brittany Broski turned her 2-second kombucha situation into a lifelong career. She was just on late night. Do you know what I mean? She was just on late night. Okay. She's been interviewing high level celebrities. She's very brand friendly. Okay. But she's also very like, the leftists don't like her. Okay. So very capitalistic. Okay. Right. So just something to think about. You know what I mean? Okay, watch this $20 burrito thing.
Burrito debate of 2026.
A spokesperson at Turning Point USA spilled the beans, posting that a college student recently complained to him about the rising cost of food, telling him a burrito shouldn't cost $20. That post hit a nerve among conservatives, discussing food prices which are up more than 4% since President Trump took office.
A burrito shouldn't cost $20. How is the kid wrong? Prices are out of control. People can't afford it. It's undeniable, just undeniable.
President Trump has insisted that prices are coming down, but even some of his own supporters are raising concern, like this person whose email was read on The Charlie Kirk Show.
We have 5 kids. Groceries are unaffordable. I am a Trump guy, but he is not turning this around. Doesn't matter how often he brags about eggs.
Others say young people should stop complaining. Republican Congressman Dan Crenshaw posted, "Stop whining, get a job, eat ramen like the rest of us did in college." Conservative columnist Mark Thiessen wrote, "Cry me a river. The burritos in the college cafeteria are included in your meal plan," saying that a burrito only costs $20, quote, when you buy it on DoorDash. Vice President J.D. Vance taking the student side and firing back at Thiessen, saying, "I'm surprised to hear Mark say this. If you've ever met him in person, it's quite obvious the man has never missed a burrito."
Damn! Ooh, burn! Okay, listen. J.D. Vance with the fat jokes. Damn.
A former Trump campaign official responded, saying people should not dismiss the economic anxieties of young Americans.
Look, okay, the economy is hard for everybody, but it is and this is why I think it rubbed people the wrong way for Jules to make that TikTok. But I'm going to show you this TikTok that I really, really like, that talks about the influencer economy and why the illusion of, like, basically Jules gave the illusion that she made it, that she's rich now. She paid for her house. I think she even bought an apartment and like rents out a unit or something. And people are like, oh my God, you made it. You made it. If somebody who made it is e-begging, then it feels really bad. Okay. But it's also a part of the influencer economy, which is why I'm not an influencer. Fun fact, influencers are dominated by women. I am a streamer, which is dominated by men. Do we know the difference? I'm in a male-dominated part of the internet, but influencers, TikTok influencers, fashion influencers, makeup influencers. So influencers are people who are working directly with companies and they're influencing you. They're basically capitalists. Versus I'm a streamer. I'm in a male-dominated part of the internet. And I talk about philosophy and politics, hugely male-dominated. So when Chelsea Fagan, who runs the Financial Diet, says influencing is primarily female-dominated, she's talking about influencers, which are different than creatives or creators or streamer. These are all different kinds of parts of the internet, okay? Okay, so there's the context. Here you go.
Influencers are walking billboards and bootlickers of capitalism. And if you think your industry is hated just because it's female dominated, be so for real. Weaponizing feminism to shield overconsumption isn't a new trick either. In the 1950s, a woman's entire economic identity was tied to being a wife. Taking a traditional job was seen as an indictment of her husband's ability to provide. So Tupperware found a loophole. Don't call it a job, call it a party. Turn a friend group into a sales force, rebrand the whole thing as a lifestyle, and nobody clocks it as exploitation because it looks like a hangout. A distributor recruits a downline, and a cut of every sale rolls up. Whoever gets in first wins biggest, and everyone underneath them is built to lose. Influencer culture traces the exact same shape: mega, macro, micro, nano, and a massive base stuck at aspiring, funding the tiers above them. Once that structure exists, the real money is never in the product anyway. It's in the recruitment. MLMs figured out decades ago that if you get someone to buy a starter kit, you profit whether they ever sell a single tangible thing. Influencer culture just streamlined the process. They sell you the starter kit directly. A $500 course on how to hit 6 figures as a creator, taught by someone who hasn't even broken through themselves. Sold to people convinced that if they just learn the system, they'll be next. It's a pyramid selling access to a pyramid. That structure explains why it's being sold, but parasocial theory explains why we keep buying it. When you watch someone every day, your brain forms a one-sided bond. You register them as a trusted peer, not a broadcaster. Once that bond feels real, their curated life starts to feel more real to you than your own, and buying what they use feels like buying your way into their world. And once you're chasing that, it stops being about any individual creator. The corporations funding these hauls don't want you asking where any of it actually comes from. Capitalism wants you to keep scrolling and keep wanting. Influencers.
Which is why I don't take sponsorships. Like, it's hard to find a good company to work for because I'm just going to sell you something you don't fucking need in the economy where everything's $20. Like, why would I, as a creative, take a lump sum from a sponsorship? And the only way I get the deal again is if you buy enough of their product. Like, if a sponsorship works with a creator, but they don't make the money back, they don't work with that creator anymore. So the only way for me to continue getting sponsorships is if you buy the product. And now I'm being told, like, how would I do this as a leftist anti-capitalist if I know the economy sucks ass right now? Like, if everybody was in their abundance era, we could talk about it. We're not in our abundance era. We're in our, like, every dollar counts era. And if you're in that time in your life where every single dollar counts, okay, our budget is to the dollar. It's to the penny, to be honest. Like, our budget is like to the, okay? If you're in that era of your life, you know what I mean? Like, you can't just, where's the extra product coming from? Like, why do I need this? You know, you have to ask yourself, like, why do I need this? Where if you were in 2016 YouTube in the height of the makeup era, girls, we were spending $60, $80, $120 on makeup palettes. Like, for eyeshadows, we could never use in our lifetime so many eyeshadows. Like, we were buying and buying and buying. Every creator was coming out with a makeup brand. Jeffree Star made $100 million. And by the way, Jeffree Star tried to talk shit on Jules. Like, oh, your viewers aren't gonna like pay for your bills. Jeffree Star made $100 million. Okay, he needs to be quiet. Okay, that's different. Even Jules didn't make $100 million. I mean, I don't even know if Jules and all of her success has made $1 million, right? Because it doesn't work that way. even Vanilla Mace was talking about this because everyone always thinks Vanilla makes a lot of money. She makes probably like 500,000 a year, maybe. Okay, that still doesn't make her a millionaire. Doesn't mean she has millions of dollars because again, like you don't bring home that much after taxes. So again, everyone feels rich when you're making 20K a year, but no one's actually rich when Jeff Bezos exists and Elon exists and people are making, they're worth $25 million or $6 million. Like a lot of these people are not worth that. A lot of these people will literally have to think about who they want to be at 50 because the truth is nobody's going to watch any of us at 50 if we don't have more to offer. So the question is, what is the thing we're going to offer people when we're 50? And it can't just be buy my shit on TikTok shop. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I say, is this a career for you? Or is this just like a cycle? Most influencers have a life cycle, I think, of 3 to 7 years. I think that's correct. Okay. So it makes sense that Jules would fall off now because that's the end of the cycle, or she'll continue to something new. Like people continuing their career, even me. I know I'm just a middle-class YouTuber, but I am a success story because technically I should have folded a long time ago. A lot of the people in my space gave up on content creation and went back to getting normal jobs or did other things. My job has only gotten better, but that's because I'm treating it like a career, like a middle-class career. That's how I'm treating it. And I'm living within my means and we're just taking it one day at a time, you know? So you just be very careful about this obsession of one, thinking people have made it, and two, thinking they're richer than they are. And three, if you've made it, make sure that your brand isn't I'm rich now. Because if you're going to make your brand I'm rich now, then your audience is going to think you should never ask them for shit. So when Jules gets on and basically says, buy this product, guys, if she came out and made a video, I don't know where it is actually, but she made a video that was like, I didn't plan to show it to you, but it just popped in my head. She made a video that was like, if guys, I have to, like, I'm selling this product. If even one of you gives me, if like 10 of you buy the product, that is a form of e-begging. That's bad capitalism. It's negative selling. It's my dad's about to lose his store, help him selling. But now the grift is also this. Did you see the AI companies that are now making AI videos of people whose dad just died? And they're like, please support our company, and people will fall for it. It's a scam, basically. So when real people are doing it, it's very hard to discern, is this a scam or is this real? Are you really in trouble or is this a scam? Because the scammers are now doing that. So you have to be very careful about the way you ask your audience for money, about if you're going to be, especially for someone who's being interviewed as somebody who made it, you know? Yeah, so just keep that in mind. Okay, let's take a 2-minute break, and then I want to show you the next half of this, which is bringing it back to philosophy and politics and feminism, because this is all connected to exactly why we're having such a weird time on the internet right now and left spaces. But like, I just want you to know, the work is real and it's important. And even the people that want you to help them will bite the hand that feeds them. So if you think your work is good and you're doing a good thing, keep doing it and make sure you check yourself and you have a good crew around you. But like, keep doing the work. Because if you listen to the comments too much, if you listen to your customers, you have to make sure that they're not just like trying to get free shit. You know, that's an analogy more than a real thing. But like when you work at a grocery store, you know, you always have those clients or those customers who like want free shit and they're trying to rig the system. I don't blame them, but it's a little different when you're an independent creator, a disabled creator, a trans creator, a person of color, and people are trying to do that, or you're trying to do it in the reverse, right? So just, you know, but there's real work to be done. There's real leftist work to be done. And I don't want you to give up on your communities because people are mistaking content creation for the real activism. Because truly, this is a space where you should get tools to take back to your real activism. The activism only happens as a billboard online. But that's it. This is all this is a billboard, okay? It's just announcing that we're doing activism, but when the computers are off, we should actually be doing something, even if it's little, even if it's just for our family and friends in our neighborhood, our local communities, you know? Okay, I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I just want to say, like, if we get excited or it gets a little heated on my end especially, just know it's because I'm trying to balance too many balls, genuinely, but I don't want it to be a space where people feel like they're constantly being lectured, but I do want it to be a space where we're being clear about where we stand as well. So I'm learning to balance as well, okay? Now, as we move into the second half, okay, a lot might come up for you. So let's go ahead and get to it. We're going to revisit some faces you've seen recently in the biphobic conversation because, again, with all of the discourse between Drew and Jules and ER and straight women not wanting to date bi men, people are really starting to feel like, okay, I don't know what's going on, but you guys are being weird. And I think what's happening is a lot of us on the internet, this is my theory, have really found our safe spaces. And our safe spaces are deteriorating in front of us because we're too stressed and poor to even be online. Like, I know everybody says they're attached to their phone, but the truth is, I don't even know if we have the money to build online community in the same way that we used to, because everybody is so stressed. And so as much as it was a safe space for so many of us, and we're so happy to have built it, it is still very hard on people. I know my Discord is $10 a month. This stream is $1.99 a month. I understand that is a lot of money. And I also understand that as a single creator, I can't make shit for free except for YouTube videos, because community can't happen in free spaces. We think it does, but it doesn't, because there's no way to then regulate people. You can have boundaries put in place, but then who's the dictator of those boundaries? Like, you'll get overrun and exhausted. That's why I'm stepping away from my YouTube comment section, because it's a free space. I can no longer regulate. I cannot mod my YouTube comments anymore. It is too overwhelming and too intense, especially as I get more popular, which thank you so much for making that happen. And also, like, it is so much emotional labor you do for free. There's no time to then make content. I already work 6 days a week. It already takes me so much time to get shit done, and I'm disabled. Like, I'm just happy I can do what I can do. But like, there is something very serious about the way that people come into free spaces and just ruin them. And I'm not saying the government should make things free. I'm not saying institutions should make things free. They absolutely should. I'm saying we as like the US government can afford it. Me as a singular creator, I can't afford it. Like, I literally will not be able to eat if I spend all of my free time talking to comment sections instead of actually making good content for you to watch. So with that said, a lot of people have been talking about taking a step away from content creation lately. I'm not doing that. I'm here to stay, girls. Okay, I don't want to leave content creation because people on the internet who don't watch me are misunderstanding all of my content, or even people who say they watch me aren't willing to actually read a book. Okay, right? So here we go. Let's watch some content.
People on the internet sound like Ronald Reagan, and I think I'm going to take a break. Half of the people on the internet sound like Ronald Reagan, and I think I'm going to take a break until y'all start sounding woke again. It's getting spooky. Why am I seeing women, queer people? Why am I seeing people of color sounding like Ronald Reagan, anti-blackness, racism, homophobia, transphobia? Why am I hearing it? A lot of y'all don't even, we shouldn't even be sounding like this. Y'all scaring me. It's getting very spooky. We need to wrap it up, bring back woke. Half of the people on the internet.
It is getting spooky. There is something happening in the world, and this TikTok really eased my tension. I don't know this creator. I've watched a few of their TikToks. But guys, I was starting to feel like something is really wrong with my comment section. I don't know what it is. One, I am getting more popular. I accept this. But two, this is what's happening to me. And I'm so glad it's not just happening to me as a creative. Thank you, God. This is the new meta. I'm telling you. Okay, here we go.
We need to do something desperately about the epidemic of people on this app that regurgitate your own talking points back to you. They address points that you made in your video. They regurgitate them back to you as if it is their own original idea that they're telling you about just now for the first time since you forgot to bring it up in your video. The amount of people right now in the dirty blonde conversation that are telling me like, yes, and also it's pedophilic beauty standards, when I addressed that both in that video and in my previous video where I talked about why white women are so obsessed with blondness as the beauty standard. And the amount of people in the comment section on my video about how we still have forced labor in the United States, where I said in the video, in the prison system, and also what this video is about in Los Angeles's garment industry. The amount of people in my comment section who were bringing up the prison system as if I had never brought it up in the video, as if they were graciously educating me on the fact that forced labor also exists in the prison system, which is a distinctly different kind of comment than those who were expanding on that point and explaining some of the mechanisms of slave labor in the prison system. Two different comments. A lot of people commented on the video as if I had never mentioned prison labor at all. I would go as far as to say like 70% of the people who watch videos on this app and leave comments don't actually watch all of the videos that they listen to like maybe 10 seconds of it. They listen for a couple of keywords that they've been trained to get angry at, and then they regurgitate their talking points in response to those keywords, regardless of the actual point that you are making. And some of these people are real people. Like, I understand the desire to be like, it's a bot farm. Some of these people are real. I can literally open my video with a claim and I will get comments saying sources for your claim that, and then the opposite of what I said. What am I supposed to do? I like nuance too much for this app. I'm getting scared.
It's not TikTok or the internet. It's a combination of things. Yes, it's real people, because I know it's real people. We've watched their TikToks. Those aren't AI. That's not trolls. That's not bots. Real people are getting on TikTok and saying, oh, are you going to ask straight men to date other gay men? And I'm like, that's not even the same thing. That's not even the same thing. So we know it's not just bots, though. Yes, some of it is bots. Okay. So as a creator, I'm so glad that I saw this video because I was seeing that in my video where I was like, I'm sorry, why are you saying it? Like, I didn't just say that. Didn't I just say that? And then I'm like, what is going on? Okay, so that's why I got to still make the work because there are people who are really looking for it. And I got to ignore the comment sections, except for members, of course, and the most upvoted comments. Maybe I'll pay attention to them because I still can make good content out of comments. I won't engage. So I'm going to let it be the wild, wild west in my comment sections, guys. Good luck down there because I'm not going to, okay? I will, TOS will automatically grab the comments that shouldn't be there, but engage at your own risk because it's over. And I also know that my channel gets punished because I moderate so badly, and I'm just not going to do it anymore because I keep modding with this illusion that I'm going to build this safe community on YouTube. What a fucking joke. Because like there you are, like there the world is, there the bigoted world is, that even like mutuals on TikTok, people on TikTok who are like, I thought you were on my side, are sitting here taking the side of Terfs. So like, you know, it's not that the world is changing so significantly. It's that the world is tired, in stress, and the economy sucks. And we're just not thinking. We're just not thinking. And it's hard to think because you're so tired. You haven't slept. You haven't read. You haven't engaged. And for those of us who are doing this as a job, we need to remind ourselves that our comment sections are beautiful places for the core audience. But for a lot of people, they're just tired. And they can't engage with us on the same level. Like they have jobs and families and they're doing other things. So they're like, I responded to this person's comment and they're like, oh, Britt, I didn't even know you were going to respond to my comment. I just like didn't even finish your video. I was just like kind of sharing. And I was like, that's why I also have to move away from the comment section, because if people are going to do that, then I can't take them seriously, because here I am like thinking this is like a real statement, a real engagement. I'm like, oh, I'll engage with you. And they're just like, oh, I like didn't even finish commenting, or I didn't even finish the video. And I was like, oh, okay. Because like unnecessary tension between me and my audience that I don't need, you know, like just unnecessary tension that I just didn't, you know what I mean? So I'm just gonna, okay. This video, we're not even gonna watch the whole thing, but there's a comment on this video that made me go, oh, okay, here we go.
Desperate for you all to stop centering. I am absolutely desperate for you all to stop centering your politics on being afraid of Republicans. Oh my God. You guys have got to stop being scaredy cat ass bitches. My God. And especially where I live in Minnesota. No Republican has won a Senate race in Minnesota since 2002. The George W. Bush administration. The towers was just for... And yet and still, you have Andrew Craig and the rest of y'all running around like, but we have to beat the Republic. The last Republican to represent Minnesota statewide was Tim Pawlenty in 2011, and he won re-election in 2006. And so that was the last Republican elected to represent Minnesota statewide. 2006. Again.
Oh no, is the comment gone? Oh, I'm looking for the comment, but it might be gone. Well, they were saying that the person in the comment section was like, this is such a privileged take. Like, that's such a privileged thing to say. And they were like, oh, yes, the like non-binary Black person is like in a privileged position here. And that's the other thing that's happening, where instead of intersectionality coming to the conversation as something that makes us aware of the levels of bigotry, it's now being like, oh, that's such a privileged take. Like when I say like liberate yourself from the system, they're like, Brittany, that's so like privileged. Everything is a privilege, including just being alive or being born in the United States. You want to hear a privilege? Being born in the United States. But that's not kind of the framework we're operating on. Because if we're in the United States, fighting the United States, then we know that the privilege of being born in the United States only matters if you live outside the United States. And then even then, like, what's the privilege that you're getting? Being a part of the Fire Nation? Cool. I mean, yeah, there's definitely a privilege in that. And also, like, liberate yourself from the Fire Nation, I guess, you know? So there's like a conversation to be had here. But this got worse over the weekend with this Michaela conversation going viral. You know I'm not a fan of Michaela, the makeup artist Michaela. Like, I'm not a Michaela watcher. But look at this TikTok that went very viral that had no business going this viral. Okay, are you seeing? This is a creator reacting to an old Michaela podcast. Look at this.
Clown, right? Well, might resemble a clown, right? Well, that's the thing. I agree with you about the clowns.
It says Michaela in 2019 agreeing drag queens are clowns. Okay.
Might resemble a clown, right? Well, that's the thing. I agree with you about the clown statement. As I said in my article, they are clowns because clowns, they put on makeup, they dress in an exaggerated way. They want to stand out. They want to grab attention. So same thing with a drag queen. They put on a lot of makeup, they dress in an exaggerated way, and they perform just like a clown for children. So I guess I don't really see the difference.
That is the viral clip going around right now of Michaela Noguera calling drag queens clowns and saying that she doesn't see the difference. There are very big differences between clowns and drag queens. One of the biggest differences is clowns practice buffoonery. Like, that's how they make their crowd laugh, by looking stupid, dressing silly, and making a mockery of themselves. So comparing a character like that to people in the drag community and stating that you don't really see the difference, you are dragging that community down. Now, the reason why I think she has such a skewed perception on that community, especially during this time and her younger years where she was using the derogatory term for transgenders, from her very early years of being a kid, she has been compared to looking like a boy. And she even talks about it in this clip right here.
Are you offended when somebody says you look like a man dressed as a woman?
I used to be, definitely, made me grow up a certain way. But it never made me change who I was. It never made me want to wear less makeup or do my hair less or differently or dress differently. So I think that's important, that I sort of stayed true to myself. And
so, yeah, I do think she had a very skewed perception of the drag community, of the trans community, the LGBTQ plus as a whole. Has she changed her views since? Probably. But let me know your thoughts in the comments.
So if you go to the comment section of this video, where are the comments? Is my TikTok broken? The comments are gone for some reason. She was liking comments from people that said, oh, I bet she's MAGA. Michaela's MAGA. I don't know if Michaela's MAGA, but the context of that conversation was not the way that this TikTok makes it sound. She wasn't saying she was offended that people thought she was a man because they thought she was trans. She's saying it hurt her feelings that people thought she was a man when she's a woman. In the same way that I used to be called a man when I was younger, and it would really hurt my feelings, not because people thought I was trans, but because I already felt really bad about the nose I had and the features I had growing up as a West Asian girl, only to then later in my life realize, like, when I get called a man now, thank you, gender affirming. But also, like, that's not what she was saying. She wasn't talking about trans people. And so, okay, then the drag queen clown comment. Here's the full context of that clip.
A lot of these younger children are looking at these folks, and you used the word in your story, and I think I probably used it on the air myself, clown. I mean, it's almost as though these folks are clowns. They're dressed up, exaggerated makeup, hair, clothing, and this, that, and the other thing. To a small child, this might resemble a clown, right?
Well, that's the thing. I agree with you about the clown statement. And as I said in my article, they are clowns because clowns, they put on makeup, they dress in an exaggerated way. They want to stand out. They want to grab attention. So same thing with a drag queen. They put on a lot of makeup, they dress in an exaggerated way, and they perform just like a clown for children. So I guess I don't really see the difference.
But there is a sexuality in all of this, okay? There is a sexuality in all of this, and that's the point that I just can't get past. Why do we need to introduce 3, 4, 5-year-old kids to sexuality or sexuality issues at all? Again, if little Joey's got a gay uncle or a gay brother or whatever, they learn to deal with that through life. And we don't take them to a library and introduce them to a whole bunch of gay men and say this is So I don't get I just don't understand, I guess, why this is important to bring to the library for small children. Why not let the small children grow up a little bit first and then let them explore and learn about things like this?
Well, I think it's important in this sense because, believe it or not, some people disagree with this, but children have an understanding of their sexuality and gender at a very young age, and I'm talking 3 or 4. And I say this because when you ask any individual who maybe is gay or transgender, you ask them what age they started seeing that maybe they're not like everyone else, they're going to say really young. My mom worked in an elementary school, and kids talk to her all the time about maybe they're questioning their sexuality, and she works with really young kids. And that's why I think this is really important, because this is how kids struggle growing up, because they don't learn at a young age how to handle sexuality and gender. And then when they're at ages like 10, 11, and 12, and they're in school, and they're starting to realize that maybe they're not the sexuality they thought, maybe they're not straight, that's when they start struggling, and they start to act in a way that maybe leads them to be bullied because they don't know how to handle their sexuality. And I think that's the one thing I really like to avoid is bullying. I think the younger these children learn that everyone can be accepted, everyone can be who they want to be, however they want to be, the better.
A lot of these younger children are looking at these folks.
Okay, so the context is that. So the fact that people aren't doing their due diligence that are dragging her, I think is like really bad, and they should rescind those statements. I also think, like Chad is saying, people think she might be MAGA because her ex-husband is MAGA. I mean, if her ex-husband was MAGA when they met, I could see that she was probably MAGA adjacent. I mean, I just made this whole video on my Bert commentary channel, my Bert Simon channel, about like, if you date a racist, you're probably racist, or you're probably in an abusive relationship, but like, sometimes a racist dates a racist, and sometimes you marry a man and find out later he's transphobic and you didn't know, and it's like, oh my God, what's happening? So okay, when we have these conversations, we have to know the context. I don't know, but she sounds like a liberal. And maybe she was the kind of liberal who was dating a liberal and a liberal who voted Republican. Because remember, a lot of those tech bros who voted for Barack Obama voted for Trump. This idea that, like, you know how many liberal men in tech I knew growing up who voted for Barack Obama, who then went Trump when the money, you know what I'm saying? Like so I don't know. I don't know if he was always MAGA, if she was MAGA. I don't know. But the context of this clip just tells me the internet's willing to take people out of context for fun. You know? So again, I'm not even a fan of Michaela like that. I never watch her. I think I have her blocked actually because I just don't like her content. But that doesn't mean I'm going to drag her for something she didn't even say. Okay? All right. Look at this video. I have to mute the beginning because it's copyrighted. It says, by the way, you're not feminist if it doesn't include trans women. Okay, that's the original video. And then we're going to watch the reply.
Be an advocate for the sheep if you include wolves in sheep's clothing in your sheep advocacy.
You can't be an advocate for the sheep when you advocate for the wolf in sheep's clothing. So transphobe, TERF.
It's a different day, but I just found this in my drafts and I want to finish it. So like feminism, the idea of feminism was about female liberation. It was seeing that females were being oppressed because of their sex, because they were female. Saying that we should include the oppressor, males, into the quest for liberation of the oppressed, you sound kind of crazy. It makes actually no sense. Like women in Afghanistan are like actually really, really oppressed. They can't speak in public. Why are they oppressed? Are they oppressed because they have a gender identity that aligns with femininity? Are they oppressed because they have the gender identity that aligns with like the cluster of traits that we typically associate with that? No, they're oppressed because they're female. They're oppressed because of their bodies, of how they exist. Before women had the right to vote here in America, could they just identify with social traits that are associated with the male sex and become men and then just like opt out of that oppression? No, they could not. Why? Because women have been oppressed because they're female. So no, I'm not going to include males who want to be me in my quest for like global female liberation in places like Afghanistan and other areas where women are.
Okay, so she hashtagged feminism, trans, conservative, ex-leftist. That's her tags. Okay, again, I'm still going to fight for this woman's rights. I'm going to fight for her in everything I do political. And every time I raise money, donate, do activism, everything I will ever do in my life will include liberation for this woman. Because it's the right thing to do. I am not included in her liberation, even though she would tell me, yes, you are, Brittany. Yes, you are. You were assigned female at birth. I'm going to fight for you too. You can't fight for me and the version that I am now and talk this way about trans people. You can't fight for me, but I'll fight for you. And we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep fighting for the right reasons that we subjectively decided were right, even if people won't fight for us. But this take is where I think most of the people in the world land. I think most of the world is transphobic, and most of the world is fighting patriarchy in the mud with the pigs. You know what? I don't mean to do the pigs bad by that. You know what I mean? In the mud with the patriarchy. And I just want to say that I think we take for granted because over the last 10, 15 years, we've really aimed to cultivate spaces on the internet that felt really safe for us. And I just think that maybe we forgot that the world was so bigoted. And that's why I've been trying to tell you guys, like, girlies, you are so unique in your exploration because most of the world is not on the same page as you. And I think you probably find it really frustrating that the world is like this, but we're not going backwards. We're just heading into a different era of like being reductive and bigoted, but I didn't leave, it didn't leave. And that's the thing about cis women spaces is that I love it. But the more I deconstruct gender, the less I feel like a woman like this. But that doesn't mean that I'm not a woman. It means I'm a variation of what I would call performing a woman is. And so again, like I do think the world has always been this way. This was the huge introspective journey that I had to go on, which I know most people won't get to, and I understand, but it changed my life to realize like, oh, like this is always going to be what life is. Like, it can't be different until we're different. And if we're not going to be different because we're waiting for the world to be different, then the world's definitely not going to be different. That's why I say, like, I owed it to myself to liberate myself from patriarchy and white supremacy and capitalism because I realized that, like, I couldn't wait for the rest of the people to figure it out. The same way I couldn't wait for my homophobic family to be not homophobic for me to come out. Eventually, I used to tell myself when I was closeted that I would just, like, be in the closet forever. And I would do it to help my family and save my family and fight for their reputation. And I was like, I don't think so anymore. I actually just found an Assyrian queer podcast and I was like crying listening to it because I was like, this is so relatable. This is so relatable. And even now I'm like, man, I wish I could kind of go on that podcast just to talk about my life. But then I have those thoughts about protecting my family because I love my family so deeply. And you don't really get it unless you get it. I would never want to throw them under the bus. But so many of those queer Syrians were talking about how like all of us didn't come out because we were thinking about our families. But it's interesting that our families don't think about us when they're being bigoted. They don't think about us when they're voting. They don't think about us when they show up. And it's not because they're hateful people. It's because they're afraid. They're afraid for our souls. They're afraid for our futures. They're afraid of the world. And I'm trying to explain to you that the root of all evil is fear. This is going back to that TikTok of like, stop selling your politics as like, you have to be afraid of Republicans and we have to get them out. It's because if you do anything because you're afraid, you're not going to do the right thing. You should get the Republicans out because it's the right thing to do, not because you're afraid of them. Like, I'm afraid of these cis women that are biphobic and transphobic. And at the same time, like, you know, but that fear isn't enough to me for me to turn on these women. The fear I have, like, I'm not afraid of men, like, anymore. I've deconstructed that. I'm not afraid of men, which is why I'm very cautious about, like, men as a system being the thing that I'm against, patriarchy. I'm not afraid of men. I am cautious of people who haven't deconstructed patriarchy, all genders. All people who haven't deconstructed patriarchy and haven't really liberated themselves from it, which I think is very important, are going to be a problem for me. And that includes, by the way, gay sex workers who still engage in patriarchy and capitalism. I'm not about. There's a whole intersection of sex workers, as an example, who engage in a very capitalistic, patriarchal way of creating sex work. And I personally don't make that kind of work, but I can understand why they're doing it out of survival. But this is like a good example of like, just because it's sex work doesn't mean it's liberated. Just because it's gay doesn't mean it's liberated. Just because you're a person of color doesn't mean you're liberated. Liberation is a personal and external journey. Okay? So I can be deeply empathetic to my family, to these women. I see their pain. I understand it. I mean, in many ways, the social construct of gender does show up in a segregated binary way. So then, of course, the thing you're seeing is that females are being separated. But what you're missing is that the way that Afghanistan in particular, the rigidity of their structure is one, unique to this bubble. The rigidity in which Afghanistan exists is quite unique, but also the uptick of anti-Afghanistan propaganda that is also tied to conservatism and anti-trans is very important. So I think people miss this when they fight for like Muslim women in particular, is the West wants to liberate Muslim women, not out of patriarchy, but out of Islam into Christianity. So you have to understand these Muslim women, just like I love my family, I'll never turn my family over to you. You can't have them. They're mine. They're my problem. These Muslim women don't want to turn their sons over to you. They want to be liberated and have a choice in a system where their sons still exist. I want to live in a world where I'm liberated to live where my family still exists. I'm not turning my family over to you. So these women don't necessarily want to leave Islam. They're happy being Muslims. You know what I mean? They don't want to leave. They don't want to leave it. They just want to have choices because a lot of modern Muslims exist. They just want to live differently. They want choices, you know, and they want the choice to be a Muslim, which I support, right? And also, I'm not a fan of patriarchy. I think people forget when they always bring up like these religious bubbles, you know, and that's why there's like this fear of, even these straight women who are biphobic, they feel this fear like, are you guys saying that when I unpack, I'm going to date a bi man? I don't want to. That's how my mom probably feels when I'm like, Mom, if you did the work. She's like, what? I would leave my religion? Yeah, that probably sounds really scary, but you don't have to, but probably, yeah. But not necessarily, because and that's why I say introspection is a journey and there's a threshold. So not all introspection leads to all variations. So let's say you start here, okay, and you grow up like, you know, religious and super bigoted, okay, religious and bigoted, okay, but if you pop that bubble and break through the next barrier, maybe you're just religious and prejudice, okay? And then you break through this barrier, and then maybe you're just religious. And then maybe you stay there. Maybe you like worked on your prejudice and you worked on your bigotry and now you're just constantly working on it, but you kept the religion. Or maybe you keep going and now you're no longer even religious, right? And then maybe you get over here and you're a trans furry. Oh my God, no, not the trans furry. Okay, right? It's a joke, but you never know, right? The idea is like people are afraid that they're going to go from leaving their religion straight to trans furry. And I'm saying you never have to be a trans furry. I promise. But if you want to be, I support you. Okay? And that's the point, is like there's a fear element which stops us from engaging. And that's why I say never do anything just because you're afraid. Chat says trans furry, the final stage of enlightenment. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Check out this video. So Zay was being interviewed recently on the Smosh channel, I guess. And Zay is the linguist that I feature sometimes. And it's really interesting about words being constructs. And then I think that plays into gender overall. Okay, check this out.
Do you think is the biggest misconception people have about language?
Low-key grammar, like, isn't real.
Shut up! Love it. Can we make sure we got that?
Yeah,
Grammar isn't real, guys.
Yeah,
grammar isn't
grammar's,
real?
like, not real.
Low-key, grammar isn't real. I sit on couch.
People love to pretend like that grammar is real. Like, what you have to understand is that, like, language is a entirely social behavior. Language does not exist if there's not people using it. For grammar to be meaningful, it just has to inform the way that people use language as a social behavior. Let's say we decide arbitrarily that the word, like, ain't is incorrect grammar, but people use it as though it's correct, and people understand it as though it's correct. There's
Then it's language.
exactly.
Then you got it.
It makes sense. It's
Exactly.
like,
Language is a very self-regulating thing. If people use and understand something to be correct, then it is correct.
and to make something not proper versus proper, like the wrong usage of your.
It's just like societal nonsense.
Yeah.
Versus like you're using it and we connected and you know what I mean.
Right.
Exactly.
So if I say to you like, oh, like Shorty was mad, you would know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. She was fucking bitch.
And that doesn't
You know what I'm
like,
saying?
it doesn't need to be correct grammar
that's
for
not
me to
correct.
understand.
Right.
Okay. This is a skill I think is completely lost on the internet and in a lot of social situations because people are trying to win. They're trying to debate. I consider myself very bad at learning languages, but I actually think I'm actually superior in learning language, which means I can hop into a bubble and start to pick up on slang and start to pick up on their language and start to pick up on like, oh, I know what this means. And I go off body language. I use a lot of social indicators because I'm an observer of patterns, which I think is a very autistic trait. And a lot of autistic people, we're actually very good at picking up on a lot of patterns. We just mistake some patterns sometimes, okay? But I actually think like that's one of the reasons why I do love watching other people from different bubbles, because I'm like, ooh, what's happening here? What are you guys doing? What words do you use? And I get like really excited. I'm like, ooh, what's the thing here? What are we saying? And then sometimes I pick it up and I bring it to stream and you're like, who have you been watching? And I'm like, oh, I'm in this bubble right now and I'm obsessed. Okay. And that's why I say like, we don't even talk like ourselves. When people are like, oh, talk like yourself. That's a very interesting concept to me. I do think there is a you that is real, but I think the only way you know that is when there's no one watching you. And then you have to bring that version of you to the public. Because the truth is like, even when I'm like, because when I'm talking, even when I'm referencing like a way someone says something, I'm like, where did I pick that up? Who said it like that? Like, you know, and that's the part of it that I think is so important. Okay, so that's how I think gender is. I think gender is language. That's why I'm a gender deconstructionist. I think gender and sex and these ideas were rigidly given to us because they, quote, made sense. But when you look at the detail of the person going through an experience, you realize it's not just about chromosomes or genitalia or insides or anything else. There's so much complexity to the existence of a gender, of a body, of a person going through things, not to mention that we're always our brain. So this is where the determinists would say, you're literally your brain. Your body doesn't even matter. Most people, there is a whole group of, not most people, there's a whole group of people that don't even care that you have a body. It's zero interesting to them. It has nothing to do with you because they think you're just your brain. They usually typically fall into determinist camps, but they say like, if your brain changes and you become a new person, then all that matters is your brain, right? So then this idea of gender being so locked into our identity even becomes even more of a funny thing. If everything we're communicating with is this thing in our head, then what is this thing in our, that's why I separate myself into my body, my brain, and my consciousness. Okay, there are 3 different versions of myself in one. That's why I'm always deconstructing. It's why I'm always like, oh, maybe I am pansexual. Oh, maybe I am like gay. Oh, maybe I am this. Oh, maybe I am a man. Like, you know, and then I'm trying to figure out like what is rational and grounded. Because the groundedness is what's what's important here. So yes, I understand that some women are like, Brittany, this person thinks they're a man. And let me hear you. Hear me when I say this. There are people going through mental health crises in which they're like, I'm a man. And you're like, you're not a man, dude. Right? That is different than people who are having a gender experience. And I think you have to have the social skill, to the educational skill, to know the difference. To know the difference between someone throwing a tantrum and somebody going through psychosis. The difference between somebody plotting to murder their children and somebody going through psychosis. The idea that, like, you know, it always goes back to why something happened. For me, this is why I say, why did this happen? So that's why I look at the whole world in the way that it is. And I say, okay, why is this happening? Oh, we're animals on a planet. Oh, we're having a biological experience that we're not having a very deep relationship with. Oh, it's not a requirement of a good life. We have to remember, it is not a requirement of a good life for you not to be bigoted. You can have a okay-ish, pretty good life as a bigot. You won't have the most fulfilling life, I think. I think you could have an even more fulfilling life. But you could. Like, I think about the fact that when my mother goes to family gatherings, this is reports from my siblings, reportedly my mother is telling the family, like, Brittany's not talking to us right now. And I'm like, well, that's one way to tell the story, Mom. And I asked my siblings, I was like, well, did you correct Mother in front of everybody about why I'm not talking to the family? They're like, oh, no. And I was like, oh, so you're going to let all the relatives think Brittany's not talking to her parents versus Brittany's parents are allowing predator boys to come in the house. So you won't even in that mode, they're like, Brittany, I'm not going to like become socially like, my siblings aren't even going to be the socially awkward ones. And I'm like, oh, okay. So even though they're like, I tried to defend you, bro. And I was like, you tried to defend me by not throwing them, throw it, fucking light it on fire. But that's because I'm a dismantler. I'm like, throw that shit, blow it up. You know what I mean? And that's the problem is like, if I was there and that shit, I'd be like, he's not talking to you because this. But that's the difference. Now, here's the thing. Should my siblings do that? No, that's my job. It is not everyone's role in the family to light shit on fire. That is my job. So I'm going to continue doing it. Okay? My siblings are not bad people for not doing that when they're not ready. They're unpacking their own shit. They're in therapy for their own shit. They have their own shit to worry about. Okay? But let me tell you, I tell them all the time, I'm taking notes and I might start talking to you too. I tell my siblings sometimes, I was like, you're my favorite sibling, but I might start talking to you because you're pissing me off. And it's not because I'm literally mean it. It's because I'm trying to convey to them a seriousness in which I am saying to you, hey, you are out here saying things with your full chest about bigotry and Trump and all this shit. But when you're put at home, boom. Now, here's the thing that people don't talk about. I know why it's hard for my siblings to let go. They have no community. They have no safe space to go to. I'm not there. I live in Europe. So here are siblings with the only connection to their heritage, their people, their food, their culture. And I'm telling them to give it up for what? Because I did? Yeah, but I got married. You know, I'm different. Because the truth is, if I wasn't married, I'd be living with those siblings or around them. If I wasn't married, those siblings would have a community. But I got married and I moved away. So it'd be kind of fucked up of me to say, hey, even though I moved away, you should isolate yourself from the only community you have and be completely alone in the world, physically. Because that's what would happen. So I wouldn't do that to them. Because whether we disagree or not, whether my parents are bigots or not, you will never understand how much I love my parents. I love my parents more than I love anyone. I really do. I love my siblings more than I love anyone. My love for my family will not change because of the horrible shit they do. Right? Ever. But let me tell you this, while I'm at work and I'm sitting here telling you that your advocacy is bigoted, I mean it professionally. So now we got to talk about the professional part of this aspect that I think is missing. A lot of creatives, a lot of content creators, they forget they're at work. And we have to start remembering we're at work. And I think that that will fundamentally change how things happen. Not to say that we should be like at work again like boomers, but that we should remember that we're at work. So what's that quote? Be ruthless to systems, not to people. Is that the quote? I will be ruthless to systems. Creatives who are making money and people who are at work. But I'm not going to go after people. Real people struggling, I'm not going to ask you who you voted for before I feed you or clean up the street or offer you babysitting. Like, you need help. Our communities need so much help and we're here to give it to them. And while we're working, while you're making money off this, becoming a creative, nobody forced you to make a TikTok. If you're going to make a TikTok, you are signing up for a responsibility. You're basically consenting for a certain level of responsibility. And the audience, when you engage and harass people on the internet, must be responsible for how you treat people, just socially. Okay? You have to be aware of the social context. You watching Drew's podcast and not reading the room is your fault. That's your responsibility. Okay? The fact that you were watching this podcast and in no way picked up on that it was a shallow, casual conversation is your responsibility. It was not Drew's responsibility to make it any more clear that this was not a serious conversation. But it's so interesting that a light, basic conversation caused so much bigotry and evil to spill out of people's mouths because they were activated and then they couldn't read the room. And I'm saying, do whatever you need to do to be introspective about the social situation you're in. But the way you watch content matters. And that includes me too. Okay? That's why sometimes we watch content 3, 4, 5 times. Right? Like 3, 4, 5 times. We watch the same video like, okay, hold on, did we hear it right? Wait, let's watch it again. Because what we're doing is we're moving past all of the biases in our brain. Let me make you a picture actually. This is a practice of introspection, guys. In case you don't know what I mean when I say introspection, here's one way you can introspect. So you've got you and you've got these layers of understanding, okay? And this is where you want to understand this person, okay? So this person says something, okay? And you hear what they're saying, okay? So it gets transmitted through all these layers and it hits you. Okay, but by the time it gets to you, it's like a game of telephone. Okay, so it's kind of like distorted because you've got all of these prejudices and biases going on. So now you have to hear not what you heard, not what came to you at the end, but what might exist if you got rid of these barriers, okay, and went through it and actually heard, hold on here, actually heard what they said, okay? So you got to actually hear what they said, okay, and not what ended up coming through after it passed through all your fucking issues, okay? And that's hard because you have to basically unlearn. You have to take these apart and unlearn. You have to get rid of these in order to get a clear communication. So at the end, it will look like this. Hold on. Boop, beep, boop, boop. It will look like this. Okay. This person talks. Beep, 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 beep. And you, this is an ear. You hear it because it goes straight to your ear. There's no issue, okay? There's no block. You're just going to hear it clearly and go, oh, okay, cool. Here's this. Now, let's say there's a mini block. Let's say there's just like a little block. You can be like, oh, hey, I have a question. Well, did you mean this? And they can say, no, I meant this. And you can go, oh, okay. Dobro. I get it. Got it. Okay. Or they can say, yes, that is what I meant. You understood me correctly. Yes, that is what I meant. Oh, great. Super. Okay. I'm glad I understand you. Okay. And so again, when we have these conversations, you are breaking down, you're introspecting, you're extrospecting, you're saying, did I hear this right? Am I upset? Am I being activated? Why, when you said it this way, am I upset? You know, like, oh, hey, that really hurt my feelings. Why did it hurt my feelings? You know, you said this thing and I'm confused, right? Okay. So this is why I say to you, like, I'm deeply empathetic to all of us are struggling, but the world is a reflection of us as a whole. The world is a reflection of us as a whole. And I'm saying the world cannot be this way, and you're the greatest exception. You're the perfect communicator and the smartest person and the greatest mind, you know? Just said, look at you using creation. Havala lepa. It's not getting any better, but it's not getting any worse, you know? Steady wins the race. I'm going to figure this language out, you know? But that's the thing is, like, at the end of the day, it is a language barrier. We're having a language barrier, even though we're all speaking English. And you have to radically accept that just because someone is speaking English, it doesn't mean you understand what they're trying to say. And this is why I say to you, I don't need you to speak English for me to understand you a lot of the time. I get by not speaking the same language as most people around me pretty well. Okay, growing up in a household where my family spoke a different language than I could understand a lot of the time, I got by pretty good. Okay, I got by pretty good. Obviously, the details and the nuance are lost, but I understand the emotions, you know? I understand the feelings. I can understand a little bit, enough to get by. And that's maybe what's missing on the internet is like we really take for granted that because we're all speaking the same language, that we can just automatically understand where the other person's coming from. We can't. And then on top of that, there are bad faith actors. And on top of that, there are predators. And on top of that, there are scammers. And on top of that, on top of that, on top of that. So I know people are taking a break. I know everyone's trying to recalibrate. The way that I'm going to do it is I am going to take a step away from my YouTube comment section. I am going to answer members. I'm going to answer on stream. If people have chat questions live, I'll answer those. But I'm going to let go of my comment section. I'm going to stop trying to build a community in a space where anybody could see me, and even the most well-intentioned commenter who's just not thinking is basically posting their inner thoughts, and I'm taking time out of my day to answer them when I just can't afford to, honestly, mentally or fiscally. So again, I run the Discord. We have events every Saturday. It's a great event space. I have YouTube memberships like this stream here. It's great. I also, like I said, will read my comments or sometimes maybe miss my comments. I won't engage with them as much, but members' comments, I'll filter. I'll go members only. And if you guys have questions, I'll try to answer them either in chat or on stream, whatever. But that's going to be my decision. I meditated on it. I think it's the right thing for me to do. I'm just spending way too much of my free time answering comment sections from people who then reply, "Oh my God, Brittany, it wasn't even that deep. I was just kind of like sharing a thought in my head." And I'm like, okay. And then other people who just deliberately want to take me out of context and never actually hear what I'm saying. So again, okay, respectfully, I do think there are really good people on the internet. I think you're a lot of them. And I really think that the world is okay. I think we're in 3 steps forward, 2 steps back. We're in the 2 steps back era. But the world isn't as messy as it looks. It's not ending. It's just at a moment. So adapt, stay vigilant, and stay kind. Stay super, super compassionate, because the more you get stressed, the more your animal brain will want to become bigoted and prejudiced. I promise you, this has been studied. They know this about us. The more we are stressed, the more propaganda will be like, see, they're making your life hard. The immigrants, the gays, the poors, they are going to use this against you. And it is already working. I see it on people. It's working. Do not let your stress make you bigoted, okay? Introspect and meditate. I promise you it will be worth it for you and your whole community.